Hi, everybody. Philip Shaw here again for another month for the East-West debate with Dr. Enamel Hawk. I'm here in Dresden, Ontario, Canada. And this month we're talking about an issue that is happening right now in the world, which is the potential conflict that might be going on shortly, or it's been building up between Russia and the Ukraine. Uh, you're talking about historical differences over a period of time in that part of the world. And it just so happens that since 1991, Ukraine's been a separate country after the breakup of the old Soviet Union. And over a period of time, things have changed where you have the NATO alliance, which was originally set up to protect after World War II for the defense of Canada, the UK, and the United States, is now expanded around the world in parts of Europe, and even a place like Ukraine is looking toward getting NATO membership. So you have, we've had Russian buildup over the last 6 months to a year on the Ukrainian border. There's also a separatist movement within eastern Ukraine that is supported apparently by the Russian government. And you have Western governments supporting the Ukrainians in this, and it's hard to say what that really means. For instance, we just had the Canadian foreign minister go to Ukraine yesterday and pledge support, whatever that means. But there are Canadian personnel on the ground there for training, and there is as well for a lot of other Western countries. So, it's hard to say what happens. Typically, I guess historically, even Russia was born in Kiev in the Ukraine area. And, I am hoping that cooler heads can prevail, but that part of the world is not usually like that, especially when it comes to Russia and the sphere that they have influence over. So that kind of sets the scene for what's going on there. And I'm sure Dr. Hawk can add to what is behind everything and what might be some of the issues we're seeing between Russia and Ukraine right now.
Thank you, Phil. I think when we look into this conflict in Ukraine, it's a large historical pretext to this. Obviously, you mentioned about it that Ukraine was part of the former Soviet Union. Not only that, some of the stalwarts in the Soviet Unions were from Ukraine. So if you remember, some of the stalwarts from Soviet Union was strongly from Ukraine, and Ukraine was part of this Soviet Union for many, many years. Obviously, once all of the countries were republics of this former Soviet Union became independent, there has been a rush, I would say, from the Western part to accommodate them within the broader Western framework. And that is, to me, when I look into that would irritate anybody who is also influential. It's not like a small country. Russia is a big country, has a lot of influence around it, and it's a large country that has, that is quite strong, and not only also in terms of economy, but also in terms of the arms. So given this bipolar world that we have seen many, many years ago, and then we have a unipolar world, which was United States alone, and Russia was a sleeping giant. So when you see Putin, my feeling is that obviously Russians never forgot their past, and they would like to wake up. So one way our Westerns are thinking they are waking up. Another way, West never forgot that Russia is giant. So they continuously expand this towards the East and try to capture part of the former Soviet Union through their own influence. European Union did it as an economic union, which Russia did not mind. But when it comes to the expansion of NATO, that is obviously Russia is worried about it, particularly after the Ukraine event. We all know these are all what they call Western press called color revolution. So this color revolution, if you look into the history now, is all fueled by a lot of CIA operations were there. Last week, there was another one in Kazakhstan that was put down vehemently by the Russians, because Russian understood they did not do it in Ukraine time, and they listened, and it did not work for them. So now Russia is stronger, understood that any kind of disturbance around his border had to be put down, and that's exactly what they did in Kazakhstan. Having said it, in Ukraine also there is a lot of Russian origin people who are living in the eastern part of Ukraine. Let us not forget it, because Ukraine, once it was republic of the Russia, they understood it is one country. So they did not, even the Crimea, which was part of Russia, that was given to Ukraine because it was part of a brotherhood treaty.
Yes, so, that's right.
So given that, I think when we look into it, I don't see, because although everyone in the West is worried about the war, I don't see there will be war there, because my own feeling is that it's a game plan. I don't know what is inside whose mind. But if you look carefully after the Orange Revolution? I believe it is Orange Revolution in Kiev.
Yeah.
After that revolution, eastern part of Ukraine is still out of their hand. There is no trade between the eastern part and the western part of with the Kiev. And that is a stalemate that has been going on for many, many years. If I look into it, I would see that is going to weaken the eastern part of Ukraine, and that has been a strategy, because stalemate there without a country head, without is going to be a I would say a seed bed for extremism, seed bed for many other things, because it is neither part of Ukraine nor part of Russia, and it's actually run by the technically you might say governments, and that itself is going to create more trouble there. So I see that from that particular angle, and I can see that if I were looking at from the Western strategic point of view, they are probably trying to see a different way. They said weaken Eastern Ukraine will eventually succumb to the pressure of Ukraine, and they will march. That is one strategy, and I'm pretty sure Russia is also aware of it. So it's a game plan on the Eastern Ukraine. I don't know how it is going to be resolved, but I can see the game there, and that is how I see, rather than seeing it as a pretext of a big war. That is the number one I see in there.
There's a lot of history involved here.
Yes.
It's interesting. You mentioned Crimea, which used to be part of Russia, and under Stalin, it went back to Ukraine, and because at that time it really didn't matter.
Exactly.
But I thought it was quite interesting to hear from Mikhail Gorbachev recently. He's the last Soviet premier that presided over the breakup of the Soviet Union, and he had many disagreements with Putin during the early days. But now he's a supporter of Putin with regard to his policy with regard to the Ukraine. And one thing that Gorbachev has said is that former U.S. Foreign Secretary James Baker promised Gorbachev that they would never have NATO membership in the Ukraine. And of course, that's one of the issues now. But whether the point being is this: there's a lot of distrust, right? And there always has been in Russia with the West, and there's a lot of distrust everywhere with the West in large parts of the world. And so that's a big part of this, as well as the, I know you wanted to say something about the arms trade too with this, but there's a lot to this with regard to this distrust involved.
Yeah, I think distrust is a major reason for that. But more than that, nobody wanted to solve it. I can see that even though the Russian foreign minister has said categorically that this buildup is, you can build up your own arms, military within your own border. And obviously there are strategies, and the strategies are to sell the arms. I told you that when I see the arms selling right now, last year's average annual arms deal was about $120 billion. And 37% is with the United States. So look at the share of the arms. And even yesterday, this last year, I think it was $220 million arms deal was given to the Ukraine by the American government. And right now, Blinken is there. He's doing exactly the same thing. So everybody is selling arms there, if you look carefully. Russia is also another big arms seller. So don't forget that it's selling 20% of the global arms, which is large share. I think these big players, Russia and United States, probably both of them are playing a hard game to, proxy wars to sell arms also. Because if you look into the last year, there has been a growth of arms sales in the American side from 32% to 37%, and there has been fall of arms sale from the Russian side. So it's very interesting. I can see that, but my feeling is that I don't see a war, head-to-head war between Russia and others right there. It will probably be a proxy war which has been going on.
Well, let's hope there's not a war. That area of the world, just generally speaking, doesn't have a real long history of liberal democracy, and bad things happen. Especially in that part of the world. And like you mentioned, Blinken was there, the U.S. Secretary. Well, the Canadian one was as well. And many other Western powers have gone to Ukraine. And, I think that, but, there's even talk of appeasement. We shouldn't, anytime you get into appeasement, that harkens back to dark parts of history in Europe and things like that. But, there's really nothing stopping Russia from going across that border. And, it would be it might be somewhat similar to what they did in Crimea, but maybe not. But I just hope it doesn't happen. But there is a lot to this, and a lot of history involved, and a lot of distrust for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I think my own feeling is that there will be something there. It's not that their build-up is without anything. But as I said, the eastern part of Ukraine is in trouble, and the game is played basically on the eastern part rather than on the other whole of Ukraine. That is how I see it. And it is the strategic game that everyone is playing, including Germany. Germany is right now is meeting the Russian leaders. And obviously, they have also tried to influence each other. So let us hope for the best. Let us hope there is no direct war, because a war is going to kill the whole global economy,
Yes.
particularly in a time of a COVID right now, which we're suffering.
Yeah, and I write an awful lot about agricultural trade, and both Ukraine and Russia export an awful lot of wheat, and Ukraine exports corn into China. And if you look at the geography, the northern Black Sea area is very important in this to talk about with regard to this, because the Ukrainians and the Russians are staring at each other in the Sea of Azov in the northern Black Sea, where they export a lot of agricultural produce, and that would be shut down under such a scenario. So we don't want to see that either. So, but you're right, for the global economy, that would be a big negative.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much.
Thank you.